Women do not like having sex with men who are not sexually aroused by their bodies. They don't like having sex with men who can't maintain an erection, who can't have an orgasm, who have to think about pornography in order to have sex with them. Hello everyone. Here at the Prosecution Channel, we're strong supporters of a traditional American Christmas. If you support Christmas, then you should like this video and subscribe to this YouTube channel if you're not already subscribed. Now I want to give you my thoughts on the debate between Styxhexenhammer and Dr. E. Michael Jones. This is a debate over whether pornography should be banned or not. Now, prior to watching this debate, I was already pretty familiar with Styxhexenhammer. I've watched his content before, and all I have to say is, you should, in general, probably wear a shirt. And if you're not going to wear a shirt, then for the love of God, please work out. But seriously, Styxhexenhammer describes himself as a minarchist, which means that he is both a localist as well as a libertarian. While I can totally get behind the localism that Styxhexenhammer supports, I'm entirely opposed to libertarianism. Dr. E. Michael Jones, meanwhile, is someone who I have never heard of before. But based on the arguments he makes during this debate, I'm guessing that he's some sort of traditional conservative. Now, I don't identify myself as a traditional conservative, I identify as a post-liberal conservative. But I think there's a lot of overlap there. And it's not surprising, therefore, that I agree with the position that Dr. Jones takes during this debate, that pornography should be banned. That being said, I think that both sides did a horrible job during this debate. First off, with Dr. Jones, he's at one point confronted by Styxhexenhammer and asked, can he provide a single study that shows that pornography is addicted? And E. Michael Jones indicates that he doesn't have to provide a study for this.
I am saying that the jury is still out. The question has no relevance.
Do we have to have a scientific study before we know whether we're addicted to like cigarettes or pornography? Do we need a scientific study to tell us that?
This pretty much infuriated me because there are actually hundreds of studies establishing the fact that pornography is addictive. It almost makes me seem like Dr. Jones did absolutely no research ahead of this debate. If he had done the research, he could have absolutely destroyed Styxhexenhammer. Dr. Jones also takes it upon himself during the debate the task of proving that pornography is some sort of plot by the Jews.
The rise in vulture capitalism was closely paralleled by the rise of pornography. Both phenomena are Jewish.
First of all, why would you bother doing this? You're just adding extra stuff that you have to prove that's entirely unnecessary. You're making the job of debating against pornography more difficult for yourself. Secondly, the Jews live in the same society that everyone else does in the United States. So if you believe pornography is destructive to both individuals and to society, then the Jews would be basically introducing something destructive to their own communities as well. There's no reason to believe that a Jewish American is more or less likely to become addicted to porn than any other non-Jewish American. So the only way that this makes sense is if you view the Jews as some sort of chaotic evil faction, which is interesting to think about but doesn't really make any sense. Once again, bringing this up in a debate against pornography just adds extra baggage and extra stuff that you have to prove that's entirely unnecessary. Styxhexenhammer, meanwhile, doesn't understand that just by making a moral argument doesn't necessarily mean that someone's appealing to religion.
You're explicitly using the Judeo-Christian, or I'm sure you'd say just Christian or Catholic, concept of what is right or wrong. My argument with you has never been moral, and never has it been moral with any of these other people that get into it with me.
Just because I say that rape is morally wrong doesn't mean I'm appealing to religion. I previously posted a video about Ben Shapiro talking about the pornography debate. In that video, I made a moral argument as to why pornography should be banned. Specifically, I argued that it should be up to local communities to determine whether pornography should be allowed or not, and that the Supreme Court declaring pornography to be a free speech right was wrong. I would expect someone like Styxhexenhammer, who's a minarchist, who believes that local communities should be autonomous, would agree with something like that. What I didn't address in that video, though, were all of the scientific arguments as to why pornography should be banned. And since E. Michael Jones also failed to bring up any of these scientific arguments, I decided to make this video to do the job that he should have done during this debate. To understand the scientific basis of why pornography should be illegal, it's key to understand the difference between pornography and other types of speech. When humans have conversations with each other, when they watch TV shows or music or other things that are produced by other people, the purpose is to consume information for either entertainment or to learn things that are useful. So I might watch the news in order to learn something that I can share with other people in conversations, which is useful to me, or I might play a violent video game because it'll provide me with entertainment. Pornography is different from these things. The reason that people consume pornography is to receive sexual stimulation. For men, who overwhelmingly are the ones who consume pornography, the goal is to eventually reach an orgasm. So when men watch porn, they're not doing so for the purposes of gathering information or entertaining themselves. They're doing it to produce a reaction in their body, one that produces pleasure. So watching pornography is more similar to consuming a drug than it is to watching a TV show or playing a video game. Now, in the United States, do we treat drugs like we do free speech? I mean, in a way, you could justify that, right? Companies who do all of this research and then come up with some drug that's meant to treat some sort of condition or cause some sort of reaction in your body, they're basically offering you a type of information. We know that these ingredients cause this sort of reaction in your body that helps cure this type of disease. However, our government doesn't treat drugs as protected free speech under the First Amendment. In fact, drugs are heavily regulated, and they have to get approved by the FDA before they're allowed to be sold to the public. Given that I've already established that pornography is consumed by a drug, it begs the question, would pornography ever be approved for public consumption by the FDA? And I think according to the scientific studies that have been done about pornography, there's no way that the FDA would ever approve a drug similar to pornography. So let's start with the addictiveness of porn. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to porn addiction. What qualifies as being addicted to porn? I think that most people would agree that if someone drinks alcohol every single day, that they're an alcoholic. If someone shoots heroin every single day, then they're a heroin addict. Therefore, I think that it's fair to say that if someone consumes pornography every single day, then they're addicted to pornography. When it comes to porn addiction, I found it helpful to think of 3 different levels of addiction. The first level is level 0. Someone who is level 0 is not addicted to porn. Maybe they consume it once a week, and that's about it. The next level would be a level 1 porn addict. This is someone who watches pornography every day. However, it doesn't interfere with their job. The third and final level would be a level 2 porn addict. This is someone who not only watches pornography daily, he watches it incessantly, to the point where it seriously interferes with his social life and his job. When it comes to men who consume pornography, almost all of them are going to be level 1 porn addicts. There are going to be very few people who fall into level 0 who only consume pornography about once a week. And there are also going to be very few level 2 porn addicts who consume pornography so often that it interferes with their social life or their job. If you're someone, however, who consumes pornography daily, it would be a mistake for you to not think that you're addicted to porn just because it isn't interfering with your job. After all, an addiction is a habitual and compulsive behavior. And if you're watching pornography every single day, then you're absolutely addicted to it. Given that sexual stimulation in the male orgasm releases dopamine, it's only common sense that pornography over time would become addictive. We know that's how pretty much all illegal drugs work. They trigger a release of dopamine, and then it becomes hardwired in our brain that we should seek out that drug. Pornography is no different than this. Scientific studies have also firmly established that when men are given the choice of having sex with a single partner multiple times or multiple different partners, that men will almost always opt for multiple partners. From an evolutionary perspective, the reason for this is obvious. Once a woman has been impregnated by a man, then she's going to bear offspring and spread his genes. But from the time period she's impregnated and gives birth, there's really no evolutionary advantage for the man to continue to procreate with her. He'd be far better off impregnating multiple women if his goal is to spread his genes. On top of that, having sex with women is not easy. Women also evolved to be the genetic gatekeepers of the human race, which means they did not eagerly agree to have sex with any man that they met. Traditionally, though, there were also social institutions that kept men from sleeping around and kept women from being overly selective. These social institutions no longer exist today. The consequence of this is that men are evolutionary engineered to view sex with a woman as a scarce resource. When an opportunity to have sex with a woman is presented to a man, the evolutionary pressure is on the man to go ahead and consummate that. The availability of widespread free streaming pornography has basically hacked into our genetics. Men can now have the equivalent of having sex with unlimited partners by consuming pornography. It's therefore not surprising that it is not very surprising then that men consume pornography far more often than, for example, married couples have sex with one another. Online pornography, therefore, has become some sort of super stimulus. All the scientific research we have on things that are super stimuli indicate that they are very bad for human health. Super stimuli are things that exist out in nature that we take and through our science and technology make into ultra versions of themselves that never existed in nature. One example of a super stimulus is sugar. Sugar exists in plants like apples, strawberries, bananas. But human beings, through science and technology, have refined sugar into things like candy bars, Twinkies, Coca-Cola. A lot of research recently has identified refined sugars as the primary cause of obesity in the Western world. If people just consumed sugar in its natural state by eating fruits, for example, they would never get obese. But because we consume sugar in its super stimulus form, refined sugar, it ends up hurting our health. In this way, refined sugar serves as a hack of human genetics. Genetically, we're evolved to crave sugar, to eat things like fruits so that we can continue to survive. But then we consume these products that are filled with these refined sugars, and they end up sending our bodies overloads of dopamines, so that we become addicted to eating this junk food and that it hurts our health. Another super stimulus would be liquor. If people's alcohol consumption was limited to just wine and beer, they would be unlikely to become an alcoholic and unlikely to seriously impact their health through their alcohol consumption. However, by refining the alcohol that exists in things like beer and wine into distilled liquor, we've now created a super stimulus that if you regularly consume distilled liquor, there's a good chance that you're going to become an alcoholic and that it is going to seriously impact your health. Now, pornography is no different than refined sugar or distilled liquor. It's a hack on the human reward system that leads to addiction. There is a scientific consensus on brain composition that says that the brain has a certain plasticity to it. As human beings, as we repeatedly engage in the same actions, we end up hardwiring our brain to reflect the things that we do every day. If you are a cab driver in a dense urban city, for example, your brain would be hardwired and very good at analyzing visual images and calculating routes that you can take in order to best deliver your customer to where they need to go. If you're a professional guitarist, your brain is wired much differently than the cab driver. Your brain is much more focused on what your fingers are doing and picking up on audio cues. If you're someone who watches porn every day, then your brain is hardwired to seek out more and more extreme sexual gratification through porn watching. Now you may be thinking to yourself, okay, I may watch porn every day, but it's not like porn is going to hurt my long-term health. It's not like I'm going to die young from watching porn, or that I'm going to overdose from porn and die. And I agree, if you are a level 1 porn addict, then your addiction is not equivalent to alcoholism or heroin addiction. And I think very few people who are level 1 porn addicts will ever become level 2 porn addicts. That being said, there are health consequences to being a level 1 porn addict. You may not die early, you may not overdose, but there are things that are going to happen to your body if you are a level 1 porn addict. The first thing is an inability to have sex with women. If you watch and consume pornography every day, and then you try to have sex with an actual woman, chances are you will be unable to maintain an erection. Perhaps you are able to have an erection, but you're going to then have difficulty having an orgasm. How do level 1 porn addicts cope with problems like this? Well, some of the things that they try, which work sometimes and sometimes don't, is while having real sex, they'll imagine a porn scene in their mind. The other thing they might try and do to cope with this is to encourage their partner to engage in some sort of fetish that's been hard encoded into their brain through continuous porn consumption. Of course, very few women are going to be interested in participating in some man's weird fetish that he became obsessed with because he's addicted to porn. Women do not like having sex with men who are not sexually aroused by their bodies. They don't like having sex with men who can't maintain an erection, who can't have an orgasm, who have to think about pornography in order to have sex with them. This is the elephant in the room. It's no surprise then that in modern times, birth rates are down, marriage rates are down, there's a culture war between men and women are increasingly frustrated with each other. Here's my question to you. If you were a woman, would you want to date a man who is addicted to porn? Would you want to be in a relationship with a man who watched pornography every day? I don't think so. In addition to causing sexual dysfunction, level 1 porn addiction also causes someone to increasingly desire more and more extreme versions of pornography. If you were to go back 15 years ago, things like cuckold pornography, incest pornography, pornography involving transgendered people, none of that stuff was popular. But as time goes on, as people become increasingly addicted to porn, they increasingly seek out more and more extreme genres of porn. It's likely that most male porn addicts today would struggle to achieve an orgasm watching a conventional porn video where a single man has sex with a single woman with no weird backstory. This is because porn addiction will hardwire your brain to seek out more and more extreme types of pornography. You want some more science? Well, here you go. A 2017 meta-analysis of 50 studies, collectively including more than 50,000 participants from 10 countries, found a link between the consumption of pornography and lower interpersonal satisfaction outcomes. That means they have shitty outcomes when they try and have sex with an actual human being. A 2015 literature review looked at 22 studies from 7 different countries and found a link between consumption of online pornography and sexual aggression. An academic review of no less than 135 peer-reviewed studies found consistent evidence linking online porn to addiction and greater support for sexist beliefs, adversarial sexist beliefs, and a greater tolerance of sexual violence towards women. Again, if you were a woman, would you want to date a man who was addicted to pornography? I don't think so. Another study of nationally representative data found that porn use was a strong predictor of significantly lower levels of marital quality. Another study, which used representative data from the General Social Study, polled thousands of American couples through the years of 2006 and 2014 and found that beginning pornography use doubled one's likelihood of divorce. The group whose probability of divorce was the highest from watching pornography were couples who reported being very happy in their marriage before porn use began. The overwhelming scientific consensus is that pornography is addictive and it has a negative outcome on people's relationships and inability to have sex. Pornography rewires the brain and causes hypofrontality in the prefrontal cortex, which causes people to become increasingly focused on seeking more and more extreme forms of sexual gratification through pornography. Streaming pornography is also easily available to children who have not fully developed their brains yet. For example, if a child were to gain access to a computer or a smartphone and entered the website Pornhub, they would have immediate access to unlimited amounts of streaming pornography with no mechanism put into place to verify that they were in fact an adult and not a child. Now, earlier in this video, I said that pornography was consumed as a drug. Men don't watch pornography to learn information or to be entertained. They watch it in order to sexually stimulate themselves so that they can receive an orgasm. Any drug that had side effects that were even remotely close to those caused by pornography would never be approved by the FDA. Given that pornography is a sort of drug, given that it is a super stimulus, why is it legal? It shouldn't be. It should be banned. While there is a moral case for the banning of pornography, there's also a well-established scientific base. These are the scientific arguments that Dr. E. Michael Jones should have brought up in his debate with Styxhexenhammer, but he never did. Anyways, Merry Christmas. Once again, if you want to support Christmas, then support this YouTube channel by subscribing and liking the video. Thanks.